Hi, friends. Welcome to the Ballerina Test, a place to learn about dance education and careers in dance. I'm Melissa, the host and creator of this podcast series, and we're finishing up our season on faith-based dance initiatives. And I got to speak with Amanda Standard. She has been a K-12 dance educator for over 20 years in the Maryland area. She is a Brooklyn girl, graduated from LaGuardia High School for the Arts, and is also a graduate of Howard University with a BS in biology. And she also created the Divine Dance Institute based in Maryland. And so we spoke today about what does it look like to be operating in a faith-based orientation, whether that's in a dance ministry or in your everyday life as a dance educator. And so we had an amazing conversation. She squeezed me in between classes, so you get a little peek inside of her classroom, which is always just really fun for me to see kind of the life of the studio at play. She is a recipient of the Dance Educator of the Year Award from the Maryland Dance Education Association, and she currently works in a creative and performing arts academy in Morningside, Maryland, in addition to being the founder, executive director, artistic director of Divine Dance Institute and Sound Xpressed Dance Company. Some things that we talked about. Amanda really emphasized that ministering is serving. And I want to encourage young artists of any medium to really embrace that, your creative capacity is a tool and a pathway that God has given us to serve. And as Amanda kept reiterating, that we were created for his pleasure. And so to honor him, to bring glory to him, to celebrate all that God is and what he can do through us and with us is the foundational piece of ministry, because a lot of things can get thrown into the mix of what a ministry should be. Amanda also kept underscoring, remembering, like, for whom are you dancing and why? And, understanding that, it's not just about having perfect steps and perfect technique, although excellence is important and worthy of striving towards. But are you trying to leave people with something? What is the gift for them? And just offering people that space. The Lord gave us a beautiful world, and because He knows we need beauty as catharsis, and understanding and application, and that is a role dance can serve. And so, what are we leaving people with after we have ministered to them through dance? And she also talked about that leadership is really, a call to accountability. And I would encourage young artists to explore leadership roles as they are able. You will learn a lot every time. And you will also probably learn a lot about yourself in the process of what do you need? What are maybe some places of weakness where you need to be strengthened? And Amanda talks about, the challenge of maintaining some balance, and we can't just give from nothing. And so always she kept, talking about, like, getting down on the floor. And so sometimes we just got to get down on the floor with God, so that we can be anchored and focused and then ready to walk forward, for his pleasure and in his service. So thanks for being here. I encourage you to take a listen to the episode, share it with a friend, and leave a like and a review. Thanks so much, friends. Jesus, we love you. We need you. We thank you, for bringing us together, Lord. We're in separate places and stages of life, maybe, and experiences, but because we love you and we love dance, we're here today. So, Lord, I just ask that you'd bless our words, so that this can be a blessing to those who encounter it. Thank you, Lord. Amanda, what does a great day at Divine Dance Institute look like for you?
When students have an aha moment and their takeaway, for the adults when they're able to feel release, for our kids when they're able to experience revelation about how their movement lines up with the one who created them for his pleasure. Yeah, that's a great day.
How do you craft your mission and philosophy to balance dance training with a faith-based identity?
Well, we are endeavoring to make sure that people have access to all forms of dance as vocabulary. We align with the National Core Arts Standards to create our milestones and our benchmarks to meet people where they are developmentally. And then we make sure that they have the application experience to their faith and what their belief is, bringing value to what they were created for, which was his pleasure. You are his melody, his sound in the earth. And what does your sound look like? And just being able to embody that. And for people to really leave with an experience that they can take with them throughout the week and get them engaged to come back the next time.
How does directing a faith-driven dance program shape your leadership?
It makes me accountable to something bigger than data, bigger than something written in an email or on a spreadsheet, because someone's soul is riding on what you do, and understanding that some things people will not be able to see in written form, they'll only be able to experience. And so accountability is the big thing.
What is important to you in creating your programs?
That people can see themselves better than they are now and stronger than they are now, and always able to evolve. I want people to be inspired, to be positioned where they know that they can be creative and innovative, and that what they do individually will impact others. Not only is it accountability for me, but it's accountability for them. Your movement matters.
Yeah, to give them ownership of how they
Mhm.
take that forward.
Agency.
As a young dancer, was your identity as a person of faith always merged with your dance practice?
So my jazz teacher at dancing school at Fournier Grego Performance Center, Brooklyn, New York. She came to me one day and she said, I'm going to be over the dance ministry at Allen, and you should consider, since we go to the same church. And so my jazz teacher became the movement ministry leader. And the best part for her was that she had kiddos that can dance. And so she was able to get all of her vision out, what she experienced. And she knew, particularly with my sister and I, that we would take the risks. We were the first people to, in quote, I say this, desecrate the altar by standing on it. And that piece was Say Amen. And at the end of the piece, they lifted and you stepped up to right on the top of the altar, and it was Say Amen. Just full submission, really, is what it was. That was a risk. Because, people were like, oh, they're standing on the altar. And then after it was over, they were like, oh, I was 8. So all through my training, I went to LaGuardia High School of the Arts. That was always running parallel. And so I was coming to understand that my fulfillment in movement didn't come from the aesthetics, but it came from the why. So it was really purpose driven. And I was more fulfilled when I was moving for God than I was when I was at school. And so even when I came to Howard, the director of the dance program said, why do you always dance to this kind of music, and why do you wear what you wear? She said, because I can't see your lines. And I told her that the fabric flowed with me. So it was a part of the message. So just teaching, and everybody wasn't supposed to wear what they wore for Revelations, because that's not just what happens with dance ministry. So I was always in a position where I was teaching.
Have there been challenges leaning into that?
People like to box you in because it's movement ministry. It's not real dance. Oh, yeah. I live that. I think that we have an opportunity to educate people when it comes to excellence, and we can do that through movement. And so the plie is a plie whether you decide that you want to do a plie for a secular reason versus a sacred reason. It still requires you to bend your knees and to be properly aligned so that you can execute it. The technique is the vocabulary for you to be able to properly articulate the narrative that God has given you to share with people, that he had to share with you first.
You are not the first in this season to bring up the integrity of the plie.
Mm. Bend your knees. You gotta bend your knees.
What have you learned about yourself while directing Divine Dance Institute?
That I give a lot away and I don't receive as much as I give. It's not that I'm not willing. It's just that my intentions are to just make sure that people are served. But sometimes, very often, I will do it at the expense of my personal need. So learning that and then trying to come to a place of balance. You can't give from an empty, yeah. So I learned that.
Think that's a place where like the artist and the spiritual being, like it's really hard to stop when you feel like you're doing something good or purposeful. Like it's hard,
Mhm,
you just want to keep rehearsal going and going and
mhm.
going. What have been growth points for you and your company?
Coming to understand the value of community and making sure that people are in a space where they can see that their individual voices are valuable and that they're not moving in an isolated state, but they're moving in harmony. When you look at certain cultures, one of the things that grabs your attention when they're dancing is that everybody looks the same. One of the things that's our difference, that's a growth point, is that we've come to understand that we don't all look the same. We carry the same message, but how we deliver it can be a pathway for different people in the audience at the same time. So as long as we're moving in harmony, then we can still inspire people and leave them with hope. And we really want to do that through movement. We don't want people to leave and say, oh, they danced well. That's not enough. What did you leave with that can help you hold it together for the next couple of weeks? Or every time you hear the song, you see the people moving and you go, yeah, I needed that reminder, that kind of a thing. So that's definitely been a major factor, I think, in our development and our expansion and our growth is being able to leave that thing with people that can hold them together and help them to remain focused on the one who gives us hope.
How do you stay grounded and encourage your dancers to be grounded as a person of faith in a demanding competitive practice like dance?
Who are you dancing for and why? As an educator in the school system, I don't say to people why I do what I do, but they're able to read it because I do understand that we still live in a system that requires a separation between church and state. You can't separate blood from the heart or from the artery or from the capillary. You can't separate water from the body systems. You know, when you start to communicate like that, people go, wait a minute. And so understanding your why and understanding who you're moving for, and that you are just giving back just a little taste of what was given to you in the first place, it changes the way people move. And that's what gives them the anchoring, which is interesting. It's on my shirt. Amplify the voice and anchor the soul through the art of dance. If you understand why you're doing what you're doing and who you're doing it for, then that gives you a purpose-driven pathway for your movement. It also gives you a space to be able to release and recalibrate and renew. And when you don't know what to say out of your mouth, you literally can just take it to the floor. And then you come up off the floor and you're like, okay, I can do this. I can breathe again. And so that's probably the best tool that I have added to anybody's toolbox in these last 25 years for adults and children. Well, children who are now adults. It's really weird because there's so many cycles.
How has dance supported growth in your faith journey?
In him I live and move and have my being. So when, like I just said, when I didn't know the words to say, movement will be the thing that was my adhesive, the glue. And so there was a point in my life where I could not dance. And I noticed that the enemy will try to take it away. That's like the first attack. And so that's when I realized you actually need this. Even my chiropractor says, I have to treat you on the fly. He said, you are worse. Your body does not function the way it needs to be if you're not dancing. He said, you have to be moving. And I was like, wait. So, you know, supposed to be getting older here. And he was like, yeah, nah, well, he said, you're going to have to keep it up. And so, yeah, then you see me on the floor with the 16-year-olds and certain things. I go, guys, I'm not doing that. And they go, but you can. I go, yeah, but I don't have to prove it to you. And that kind of thing. I don't teach from the chair. There are times where I literally have to get on the floor with everybody. But Divine Dance Institute is an intergenerational experience through movement. You will see people who are 72 and 2.5 on the same stage. And I think that that's been valuable for the community at large to just have that kind of experience. We're weird. The teachers take class with the students. If we have a master class, everybody's in class together. There's no big eyes, little U's. There's no, I've paid my dues. I have my receipts. I'm not going to be in a class with kids. I don't have time for that. I need to get the step too. So, so we definitely have that warm environment, which has been valuable and I think unique for us. I don't think that that's a norm for people. Everybody's in class together. You're like, you're my teacher. Yep. What's the step? Yeah.
Yeah. How have you seen transformation in your students and dance community?
Woo! How much time do we have? How do I say this without crying? Lord. I have had the opportunity to see people, they have become teachers. That's major. Like the staff, I've taught my staff that. So everybody has been in some way, shape, or form in my class. They've gone out, they're teaching in school systems, public school systems as teachers. Some of them academic them, some of them arts, developing amazing choreographers. Oh my gosh, the stuff that they do. It's just mind-boggling to me. I love to watch their choreography. Like I am their biggest fan. And watching them as emerging artists and then continuing to develop in their craft. Wow, just amazing. So they're teachers, they're choreographers. A few of them are literally doctors. They are business entrepreneurs, people going into their own field of business, stating that it's the discipline from the art form that pushed them to where they are. People have gone into professional companies. We have one who I remember holding his hand because he said he didn't have rhythm, and now he's in the first company of Ailey. For me, it has been so humbling in the last couple of years. I have shed a lot of tears because I sit down and I look and I keep saying, I remember when, I remember when, I remember when. And look at you now. Like I'm holding my head all the time in disbelief. And people are like, well, where do you think they came from? And then my son, my own baby, who's not a baby anymore, he's 21. When I watch him move, he's a choreographer. He's an amazing dancer. He's an amazing actor. He's a media specialist, a photographer, a videographer. I just looked at something he edited today as he's on his way in the train up here, and I'm just like, wow. And somebody said, well, where do you think he got it from? And I'm going, I never did what I did to make a name for myself. I served the way that I served because I believed that it was going to honor God, not realizing that my stage name, my Instagram name, Seed Planter is exactly what was happening, not realizing that you were planting seeds, you were nurturing, you were cultivating. And I'm just so grateful to God that I've been able to see the fruit. My co-worker, I taught her, and she's a dance company member. We are dance teachers together. So I get to see on a daily basis, I get to mentor, it's crazy. I'm grateful. I'm really, really grateful. And I beg God, and I hope it's not a selfish prayer, but everything that he showed me, I want to be able to see the fullness of it before I leave the earth. I really do. I really, really do. I don't want to hear of the promised land and not be able to walk in it. So all the things that he showed me, please God, and if there's nothing else, then don't show me anything else. Just leave me with that, that kind of thing. Because right now the visions are like, woo, they just keep coming, the downloads. Yeah, it's definitely been life-changing, and I live in gratefulness in just being able to see it every single day. I get to see fruit coming from the tree. That is mind-boggling to say the least. Yep, that's all I got because, I can go on and on because I can see it around the room kind of thing.
It kind of sneaks up on you, you train and train and train and teach and teach and teach, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, I think they've learned things and they're going to teach other people things. And
hmm Yep. I covered class for one of my former students who's an amazing teacher. She has her own business called Welcome to the Studio. Does these little snapshots of teaching on Instagram, and I covered her class last night. It just tickled me when I said, "I'm going to tell your teacher that you didn't do that right." And I'm covering her classes. I'm her sub. Wow, that's it's just been something to behold. Yeah.
as we've been speaking, has anything come up that you'd like to add to the conversation?
To minister means to serve. And I believe that if people understand simply what they like about a waiter or a waitress in a restaurant, what makes you feel valued, worthy as a customer, then that will help you craft your approach to dealing with people when it comes to utilizing your gift to serve. What's meaningful? What really goes into good service? What makes us like Chick-fil-A? What makes us frustrated when they don't follow through with the proper protocol? Because you've gotten accustomed to being treated a certain way. And then what does that mean to the one who gave you the gift in the first place?
What is your hope for students as they learn from you?
That they retain all of those moments of why, that they don't just participate in the art form for the aesthetics, but understanding that it goes beyond what it looks like is how it touches the heart and transforms the mind. And that's what's valuable when that dancer is done. What are you left with? And then you, as the dancer, as the artist, what do you walk away with? Just yesterday, it's the third time that I've heard it. But yesterday, somebody sent me a text message and she said that she was in a car accident and that's why she had been off the radar and she was in the hospital for 4 months. And she shared all of that and she wanted to come take my class today. And I was like, you can come and take the class, of course. And she said, I just want you to know that watching videos of you dancing helped me in my healing process. I lost my breath because the second time somebody said that to me, and it was just a month and a half ago, I was like, what? And she said, yes, I kept playing this video over and over again. And she said, this is how I was able to get out of that depression. This is how I was able, and I'm listening to her and the tears rolling down my face. I'm like, you don't think that your dégagé can be so meaningful. You don't think that your dégagé can help somebody disengage from that stuck place of pain. People don't even begin to put the two things together. And so when you hear that, you're like, God, you are really moving. And he says, well, I've been moving since the beginning of time. What you're doing is nothing new. Because he did. He's in Genesis. He moved across the face of the waters. Movement is since the beginning of time, and people had locked it into, and David danced before the Lord with all his might. No, it wasn't because Miriam went forth with the symbols. No, no, no. It was God moving. And then everything in the earth responded to his movement. And that's where I teach from. And if we understand that, then it broadens the whole scope of what movement is as ministry. So I want them to be left with that. And then they understand why their movement matters, because it is a distinct reflection of the one who created you for his pleasure. And then that's more valuable. And then you won't just look at it like, oh, so what's the next step we're going to do? Now you're looking at what are we trying to say? And I get to see people navigate through process like that. And it is mind boggling. And that's what I want people to be left with. Get something in your toolbox so that when you're alone and you don't know what to say, you can utilize this to help you to stay anchored as we navigate through the chaos of this world that we're in.
Thanks for listening to this episode with Amanda Standard of Divine Dance Institute in Maryland. I hope it was encouraging and motivating for you. I have a few takeaways that I jotted down from our conversation that I thought would be helpful to share. She also had a lovely quote on her social media that says, dance is a gift from God. created for his pleasure, used to inspire and encourage his creation, to seek him and express his glory through their existence. So I just thought that was a lovely and clear summation of what it is that dance can do and be in our lives and for other people. Amanda talked about the long investment of being a teacher, and that she all those seeds that have been planted. Some of her young students are all grown up now and they're teachers themselves, or they or able to see how their dance training supported their character development and growth to pursue things in other fields. And so it all plays a role and it looks different for different people. But part of being a teacher is planting a lot of seeds and making sure people understand the basics of a plie. If you don't have a plie, what have you really given someone in their dance technique? That's come up in a couple other conversations this series. So it seemed like it was worth mentioning again. And in terms of balancing serving and burnout, Amanda mentioned being able to release, recalibrate, and renew. So being in leadership and being accountable to God, being accountable to yourself and to those whom you serve, you have to develop that quick capacity to give yourself a little check and say, okay, Lord, what do I need to release to you today? What can you release for me, release me of? And then find your way back into moving through your day and walking with him and to be renewed in that. And I think that is a beautiful part of ministry. A challenging part of that is that that window to be renewed and transformed daily. Those opportunities increase in that window. And then also just underscoring, like, why are we dancing and for whom? And when that is really clear, I think that can make a lot of other things clear. Sometimes dance training and dance ministry can get really complicated, and there's a lot of personalities and feelings and ideas involved. And so when it gets messy, I think that's a really helpful tool to go back to, why am I doing this? For whom am I doing it? And is that the direction I want to keep going in? So thanks for being here. Thanks for listening to Amanda's story. I would encourage you to share it with a friend, and please leave a review and a like, and we'll talk to you next time, friends.